I'm Reisigo, and I'm attempting to complete every single GameCube game, but I'm randomizing what game I'm playing next. In this episode, we're heading back to the Gridiron and playing Madden NFL 04. So let's see how our experience with Madden NFL 04 went in 2024. Madden NFL 04 was released on August 11, 2003, and was developed and published by EA Sports. In Madden NFL 04, we're going to take a created team into franchise mode and win the Super Bowl to consider this one complete. Before I start talking about the game and my experience with this one, I want to point out that I played these games with 1-minute quarters, because if I would have played these with 5-minute quarters, this basic sports game would have taken me hours to complete. I played the first game of the season with 5-minute quarters, and that single game was almost an hour by itself because of all the stoppage. I just wanted to address that at the beginning because the scores are going to be extremely low for the breakdown of the season. If you don't know, NFL Madden 04 is a football simulation game that lets you play with your favorite professional teams and players while doing a bunch of different modes. There are a lot of these games on the console and they don't really change from year to year, so I don't think I'm going to go too much into the gameplay, but basically you're going to take control of the offense and defense of the teams, and then you'll call plays to try and win the game. The game takes advantage of all the buttons on the controller in some way or another, but the only thing that I want to point out is that this installment hadn't added the hit stick yet on defense. And for the first few games I would try to use it, causing me to miss easy tackles that I normally should have gotten. If you want a more in-depth breakdown of the gameplay for Madden, check out my previous video where we beat NFL Madden 07 in the playlist for this video. Without wasting any more time, let's talk about our franchise mode and how our experience went with this game. I decided to create a team, and the old Maddens gave a bunch of options when making teams, letting us pick names, team colors, stadium, uniform types, and we could even pick where the stripes would be at. We get to pick the team logo and decide where the team would be located. I remember when I was a kid that I would make a team for each of the local cities near me and make one giant franchise mode with all the teams included. I used to love doing that. Oh, the good old days where I could spend 20 hours just deciding teams before even playing the game. Anyways, I think the created team in the old Maddens are very good and one of my favorite things about the games. I created the Twitch Crocs because I was streaming this on Twitch, which if you're not already, make sure you follow me over there if you want to see any of these games live while I'm going through them. I liked the Crocs logo, that's the only reason I chose it, and I went with purple, green, and black for our colors. Purple for Twitch, green because it's my favorite color, and black because I feel like it went better with these colors over the white choice. I think we were based out of Florida, so I decided to add myself into the AFC South, removing the Jaguars because we didn't need another Florida team. We're gonna have to face the Houston Texans, Indianapolis Colts, and the Tennessee Titans twice during our season now though, which shouldn't be much of a problem besides the Colts. I think that covers the customization of the team and the league, so let's dive into this franchise mode and win ourselves a championship. In the first game of the season, we played the Carolina Panthers, and I was getting used to how the game felt again. This one just felt like something was missing the whole time I was playing it. I know it didn't have the hit stick like Madden 05, but that couldn't have made this much of a difference, right? Anyways, on our first drive of the game, we make it into the red zone and decided to take a chance throwing the ball. We ran a little rollout play where my quarterback and most of my receivers all went towards the back right of the end zone. However, I seen an open receiver cutting across the field, and for some reason, Sensi, our all-pro quarterback, decided to sidearm throw to Armstrong, who was open in the middle of the end zone for the opening score of the season and our first touchdown on the year. I didn't miss a single extra point all season, and neither did the CPU, so I'm just going to skip over those unless we have to go for two or they decide to go for two. Just assume that we made it otherwise. After a 3-and-out for the Panthers, we found ourselves in striking distance again, but this time we decided to have our number one receiver, Smith, and he was able to find himself in the end zone for another touchdown, giving us a 14-0 lead. This was short-lived because at the end of the first quarter, after a Panthers turnover, we threw an interception that was taken back to the house for a defensive touchdown. I didn't see the corner on that play, or I wouldn't have thrown that pass. I felt like a real quarterback during that play. Most of the time when I play Madden, I throw interceptions because I'm being greedy, but this wasn't true on this one. I just didn't see the defender, and I just made the wrong choice. Moving into the second quarter, we had some questionable defense that allowed Davis, the running back for the Panthers, to run the ball. Basically the whole length of the field, scoring a touchdown and tying the game 14-14. I don't think a single one of my defenders even touched him. That's some of the worst tackling I've ever seen in this game. We're able to get back into field goal range with 1 second left on the clock before halftime, and we kicked a field goal. Nice and easy, no worries with this one. This gave us a 3-point lead heading into the second half. On our first possession in the third quarter, we're driving down the field, but our momentum fizzled out, so we had to settle for another field goal, making the score 20-14. My next possession, I got greedy and went for a pass that wasn't open, and the Panthers intercepted the ball, taking it back to the house again after a missed tackle by Sensi. I'm really my own bane right now because they've had 2 pick sixes in this game. They take the lead with that touchdown, and now I need to focus or we're going to lose the first game of the season against an easy opponent. Late in the fourth quarter, I'm finally able to make my way back into field goal range and make a pretty long attempt, giving us the lead again, 23-21. But there's still way too much time on the clock to feel comfortable, so we're going to need to make a stop on Carolina's next drive. On the kickoff, after we scored, we forced a fumble, which didn't even look like we hit him that hard, recovered it, and we were able to return it for a defensive touchdown, which now gives us a 9-point lead over the Panthers. We ended up needing this because we gave up a touchdown on their next drive with a nice pass to an uncovered receiver in the end zone. We're only winning by 2 after the extra point, so of course they go for an onside kick. It wasn't a very good one, so we recover the ball, and finally we're able to just take a knee to end the game and get our first win on the season. I struggled with turning the ball over too much in this game, and I'm going to need to get better if I plan on making a run for the Super Bowl. Once we win the game, it has a cutscene showing the players celebrating and the coaches meeting at midfield, but it's nothing special. If I'm not mistaken, this might be the same celebration that they used in 05 too. Did they just reuse these for Maddens during this generation? Our next opponent is the Buffalo Bills, and this is the first game where I switched to 1-minute quarters, meaning there won't be nearly as much to talk about for these games compared to the first game. On the first drive of this game, we force an early interception, giving us the ball early and in great field position. We didn't do anything with the ball besides lose yards, but since we were close but outside of field goal range, I decided to go for it on 4th down. With the quarter so short, we basically need to make the most out of every possession, or we'll end up losing the game. There is just so little time, it's hard to get more than maybe 2 possessions in a game, so not scoring on them is not good. Anyways, on this play, we run a streak route with our tight end and loft the ball over the defenders into his hands for the touchdown, giving us an early lead in this one. The very next drive, we force another interception, giving us 2 on the day. If we can score a second time, then this game is over. That's just how it works in this one. However, right after we force the turnover, we throw an interception of our own. This Bills player has ups and just grabs this pass down with one hand for an interception, and then he ran it all the way to the house to tie the game. Nothing else really happens in this game until the end when we get into field goal range and we were able to hit the kick with 3 seconds left in the game, making the score 10-7 and getting us our second win on the season. Next up are the Indianapolis Colts, which at this time had Peyton Manning, so this game might not be a good one for us. This was a super boring game. They kicked a field goal in the second quarter, making it 3-0, and then we didn't do anything until the fourth quarter where we wasted a bunch of time before running the ball into the end zone, giving us a 7-3 lead with less than 20 seconds left in the game. They got super close to scoring a touchdown themselves, but we got a crucial interception in the end zone with Jones, made a huge return but ended up being caught and tackled to end the game, giving us our 3rd win on the season. Game 4 is against the Texans, a team during this time I don't remember being any good. They scored a touchdown on this first drive, pushing off my defense as they ran into the end zone, giving them a 7-0 lead. We kick a long field goal before halftime to make the game 7-3, and then at the beginning of the fourth quarter, our 3rd-string wide receiver found space and was able to catch the ball and take it in the end zone, giving us our first lead on the day. The Texans attempted to drive the ball down the field but couldn't convert on 4th down, meaning that we could just take a knee to finish the game and get our 4th win on the season, so we're undefeated. The next game is against the Chargers when they were in San Diego, but we're finally home for this one, or at least this was the first time I noticed being at home. We find our running back Cash all alone in the second quarter, allowing for us to take a 7-0 lead. I have no idea where the coverage was for this play, but I was able to spot it and take advantage. We get an interception on their next drive, and that sets up a field goal before halftime that we're able to make, giving us a 10-0 lead heading into the second half. Late in the fourth quarter, we find Armstrong in the middle of the end zone, giving us another score late and taking the game completely out of the Chargers' hands. This gives us another win, and we take care of the Chargers for the season. The next game is against the Miami Dolphins, another team that's undefeated on the season, so we're going to have to face a good team for the first time in this franchise. At the end of the first quarter, the Dolphins find a wide open receiver on a blown coverage for their first touchdown of the game, but were able to respond by kicking a field goal at the end of the second quarter and getting 3 points before halftime. Nothing really happens until the beginning of the fourth quarter when Ricky Williams is able to slice and dice my defense, even hitting this massive spin move at the end of the play for a touchdown. On our next drive, we had to throw the ball with little time left and a 2-score differential, but unfortunately I threw an interception that got returned for a touchdown, giving them a 21-3 lead with a very, very little time left in the game. I was able to drive down the field at the end of the game and hit our tight end in the end zone, but it was too late and we ended up losing the game 21-11, handing us our first loss on the season. Next up is the Tennessee Titans. In the first half, we're able to get an amazing block on a run play with Cash that sprung him for a long run into the end zone. This was thanks to some bad tackling from the Titans secondary. We're able to force an interception on their next drive and return it into the red zone, meaning we should have an easy score in our hand. But on the very next play, our receiver catches the ball and then fumbles it, allowing the Titans to recover it. This was the worst. But then on their next play, Eddie George fumbled the ball and we recovered it back in the red zone. That was 3 turnovers and 3 plays. If I was the crowd for either team, I would be booing. That's terrible ball security. I was ready to score our second touchdown and put the game out of reach, but the fumble got reviewed and overturned, so they got to keep the ball. Nothing came from this though, and there was nothing else to talk about in this game. We ran the ball one more time in the fourth quarter, ending the game 7-0. A boring turnover fest, but at least it was a win for us. Next up was a struggling Baltimore Ravens team with a 2-5 record. At the end of the second half, we forced a fumble after the running back caught the ball, and we were able to return it for a touchdown, giving us a 7-0 lead. Then in the second half, we put together a nice drive that allowed for Cash to run the ball into the end zone, giving us a 2-touchdown lead. The Ravens tried to score late, but didn't have any timeouts and just ran out of time, meaning we won this game 14-0. Next up, the Colts for the second time this season. They're able to get a rushing touchdown in the second quarter with James, but I thought we were going to be okay because we got a field goal right before halftime, making the score 7-3. Nothing happened until the end of the fourth quarter. I was driving to score a touchdown, but I couldn't kick a field goal, so I needed to get into the end zone. I was able to toss up a ball for my receiver, but he wasn't able to get his feet in bounds on fourth down, so we turned the ball over and we lost 7-3. They did end up reviewing the play afterwards, and I thought maybe he got his feet in, but the ruling on the field stood, so nothing changed and the Colts ran out the clock. In week 11, we have the Tennessee Titans again. Nothing happened in the first half of this game, but in the third quarter, I threw a little check down to my running back, figuring I would just get a first down and nothing more, but both Titan defenders rubbed their bodies against my player, but didn't tackle him. I broke free, and then I scored a touchdown. Why is the tackling in this game so bad at random times? It works fine most of the time, but then you get plays like this. Anyways, we kicked a field goal in the fourth, making it 10-0, and then after a turnover, I decided to run the ball into the end zone again to make it 17-0 because they're our divisional rivals, and it felt right to do that. This ended up leaving some time on the board, and they tried to make a drive, but I was able to pick the ball off and end the game, giving us a much-needed bounce-back game. Our Week 12 matchup takes us to New York to take on the Jets. Early in the second quarter, we're able to find Armstrong across the middle of the field. He breaks a tackle and is able to slip past the last 2 defenders to get us an early touchdown in this one. With seconds left in the second quarter, we're able to find Ware in the corner of the end zone for our second touchdown of the game. It's nice to have a 14-0 lead going into halftime. In the second half, we forced this really odd fumble where the running back caught the ball, ran forward, but then just dropped it. We never tackled him. We recovered the ball and I was trying to score again, but we ran out of time as we found our tight end and he tried to muscle his way into the end zone. We did get the win though, 14-0, which at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. Week 13 is against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home. In the second quarter, after struggling to stop them, they find their receiver in the middle of the end zone and they take an early 7-0 lead on us. We did find a way to respond with a few seconds left in this quarter. We found our tight end in the end zone, the quarter bit on a throw and missed, giving us a free touchdown on that drive. The Bucs were driving on us, but we got another one of those weird fumbles where the player doesn't get tackled, but just drops the ball, which we needed. We had some time left and we could attempt to drive, but unfortunately we turned the ball over and the Bucs tried kicking a very long field goal. They missed, and then we went to overtime. The overtime is basically whoever wins the coin flip, because there's only 1 minute to do anything. The Bucks did enough to get into field goal range, and this time the kicker squeezed the ball between the posts as the final seconds ticked off the clock, giving him the win 10-7. That was such a heartbreaking defeat. Next up is the Houston Texans, and this was a rather slow game. We find the end zone on a short slant route at the end of the second quarter, giving us the lead right before halftime. Then in the third quarter, we run basically the exact same play and find a different receiver on that slant route, giving us a second passing touchdown of the game. After the Texans struggled to do anything at all, we got the ball back late in the fourth quarter and we torched their defense one more time, finding Smith, our number one receiver, as he was able to break a couple tackles and found the end zone, giving us a 21-0 lead. We forced one more punt as the clock expired to get another win on the season. We now have 10 wins and should be in the playoffs now. Goal number 1 is complete for this challenge. Week 15 takes us to New England to take on the Patriots. They don't have Brady, but it doesn't matter as they find the end zone early in the second quarter. Our corner had no chance on that play. That was a perfect pass play. With seconds left in the quarter, we forced a fumble in their red zone, allowing for us to recover the ball with 2 seconds left before halftime, kick a field goal, making the score 7-3. We couldn't do anything else in this game, and they ran the clock out to win the game 7-3. Unfortunate loss in that one, but we just couldn't move the ball on offense. Week 16 brings the New Orleans Saints into town. They don't have a great record, but we need to make sure we win to keep the morale high in the locker room. Or at least that was what I was telling myself. We found some space on a passing play that didn't look like it would even be a completion, but ended up turning into a touchdown. Our wide receiver number 3 is slowly becoming our best offensive weapon. Late in the second quarter, the Saints were forced to punt, and I almost got in for the block, but our return team was able to land every block they needed to, so I could return this one for a touchdown, giving us a 14-0 lead. That's where the excitement ended because nothing else happened in this game, but we needed that win and we went and got it. Last game of the season now. We get to head to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. We've already clinched the playoffs, so the outcome of this game doesn't really matter too much. And it's a good thing because they destroyed us. They were able to find an open receiver to get a 7-0 lead, and then we just couldn't tackle Dunn as he spun his way around all my players to get the second score of the game. And since we couldn't do anything on offense, they got the ball in the fourth quarter and wasted all the remaining time in the game, giving them a 14-0 win, and we lost the last game of the season. Now it's time to move on to the playoffs. In the first round of the playoffs, we matched up against the Buffalo Bills, but we're home because we were the better seed. They miss a long field goal attempt in the second quarter that sets us up with great field position, and on the next play, we're able to find Ware wide open on a post route that gives us a touchdown lead in our first ever playoff game. We left too much time on the clock though, and the Bills were able to kick a field goal as time expired in the first half. We're winning so far 7-3, and we get the ball back to start the second half. We find our running back coming out of the backfield for a nice throw and catch touchdown to give us a 14-3 lead. We're going to win this game now. The Bills tried to drive down the field one more time, but they ran out of time as I swatted the ball down to win the game, and we can advance to the next round of the playoffs where we have to face the Oakland Raiders. Aw, the Oakland Raiders, I miss them so much. This game was a defensive battle, and we scratched and clawed our way in the first half to kick a field goal before halftime ended, making the game 3-0. Luckily, we were able to open up their defense with our running game in the second half, and with a nice juke, we were able to break a long run that ended up making it into the end zone with a bunch of their players trying to bring us down. We get the touchdown, and then as the game ended, we kicked another field goal for good measure, giving us another playoff win 13-0, and we can move into the next round. The next round is the AFC Conference Championship, so if we win, we go to the Super Bowl. We have to play the Miami Dolphins, which if you remember, we lost to in the regular season, so this should be a good matchup for us. The Dolphins strike first in this game with a field goal in the second quarter, giving them an early lead. We got the ball after this with about 20 seconds left in the half, and I was attempting to get the ball close enough to tie the game, but a curl route turned into an extremely long touchdown because of some very poor tackling. This gave us a 7-3 lead heading into the second half. Into the fourth quarter with the same score, and the Dolphins are driving when Jones jumps the route, comes down with an interception, and then he runs it to the house, giving us another touchdown and a big lead with around 40 seconds left in this game. Once the Dolphins receive the kickoff, their offense goes back onto the field and their quarterback throws another pick six to the other side of the field. Tensley comes down with this one and returns it to the house, meaning on back-to-back defensive plays, we have 2 pick sixes. What an insane sequence of events. We get the ball back again with a few seconds to go, and I attempted to score again, but couldn't get in the end zone, so we ended up winning this game 21-3. And this was almost fully because of the defense, because they played such a great game. We can now move to the Super Bowl to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. I changed the time back to 5-minute quarters to make this game feel special compared to the season. The beginning of this game had nothing happen, and I mean nothing. We didn't even get a notable play until there was 1 minute and 17 seconds left in the second quarter, when our rookie cornerback was able to jump in front of a bad pass, intercept the ball, followed by a decent little return, putting us in great field position and giving us a real shot at putting points on the board. We followed this up by switching the direction of our toss play from the left side to the right side because the Eagles defense were all lined up on that side of the field. I think they were playing man-to-man. This gave us the ability to toss the ball out to Cash, and he ran into the end zone without even being touched, giving us the first points of the game and the lead. The Eagles kicked a field goal on their first drive of the second half, and when we got the ball, we were able to drive down into the red zone for the second time of the game, where we found Armstrong on that quick slant route into the middle of the end zone for the second touchdown of the game. This gave us a 14-3 lead towards the end of the third quarter. On the following kick return, we were able to force the return man to fumble the ball, and our rookie cornerback picked up the fumble, giving us another offensive possession in the red zone. This didn't take long for us to score because we were able to find Armstrong in the middle of the field with a nice catch. And since the tackling is so bad in this game, he split between a couple of defenders and found his way into the end zone. We now have a 3-score lead over the Eagles heading into the fourth quarter. Unfortunately, after we got a quick stop on defense, I threw an interception while in the red zone, and the Eagles had a little bit of light. And they even got a decent return from this. With 3.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, they found their way into the end zone with a nice run, making the score 21-11. I need to be careful because they could change this game quickly if I'm not. They hit me with a surprise onside kick, and they were able to recover it, giving them the ball again right after this, meaning they're only down 10 points and have the ball again. They wasted no time driving down the field, and right before the 2-minute warning, they were able to push their way into the end zone using their quarterback, giving them another 7 points and cutting our lead down to 3. They forced a 3-and-out on my next offensive drive, and were moving the ball well with about a minute left in the game, when they threw another interception in the end zone to our cornerback, Mays. This was much needed and couldn't have been better timing for this to happen. This allowed for us to run out most of the clock, punt the ball, and after the return, they were left with 1 second on the clock and a dream. They attempted a Hail Mary, but we were able to knock the ball down. I guess you can call it that. It looks weird, but that gave us the win, and we won this game 21-18. We're Super Bowl champs with a created team that wasn't that great, and we completed Madden NFL 04 for the GameCube challenge. No credits for this one, but we get this really boring celebration after winning. This feels like copy and paste from 05, 06, and even 07 during this era of Madden. Can anyone confirm this for me? Because it's really bothering me. Our MVP for the Super Bowl was our rookie cornerback, Wasserman, with an interception and a fumble recovery. Good job, my guy. You really showed up in a big game. I decided to simulate another season with our team to see how they would do without me controlling them, and they went 7-9, just missing out on the playoffs. The Super Bowl for the following year was the Bills versus the Packers, where the Packers won 14-10. These Super Bowls would have been fun to watch in my opinion. Anyways, that finishes up Madden NFL 04, and now it's time to find out if I would recommend this one. So would I recommend this? I don't think I would recommend this solely based on the later titles during the same era being a lot better. If you want to check out the old rosters, that's always fun, but from a features and gameplay perspective, I think playing one of the newer titles would be a better experience. But let me know what you think about it in the comments below. If you want to know what game we're playing next, stick around. But if not, thanks for watching. Check out the last GameCube game that we completed that's on the screen now. If you made it this far, make sure to subscribe to the channel because it helps me out. Like and share this video so we can get more eyes on this challenge. And as always, we'll see you in the next one. So we have our GameCube game list up, we have our random number generator up, and on the count of 3, we're going to find out what we're playing next. So 3, 2, 1. 262, which is Namco Museum.